Hi everyone, you're welcome to another interesting session on public sector accounting and finance. If you've been following us, in our last lecture, we introduced the course Public Sector Accounting and Finance, where we defined what public sector is, what private sector is, what is public sector accounting, and what is public sector accounting and finance. We defined all the concepts and explained them. So today we are still on the introductory aspect of the course. Today we want to look into the objective of public sector accounting and as well as the users of public sector accounting information. So without wasting much time, let's dive into the main crux of the matter. Objectives of public sector accounting. Why do we do public sector accounting? Why do we keep these records? Why do we even collect the records? Why do we record them? Why do we classify? Why do we interpret? Why do we communicate the financial information of the government? That's what we mean by objectives of public sector accounting. The first reason why we do public sector accounting is because it assists in planning and control. Planning has to do with setting down the goals and objectives an organization wants to achieve and devising ways of achieving them. So, in public sector, we always plan. For instance, we do budget. Budget is a kind of planning. And for you to do budget, you need to do what? You need to get financial information. And this financial information is gotten through public sector accounting. So, what is budget? The proposed income and the estimated expenditure you want to incur during a given period. So, before you do that, you need to get some data. And that data is gotten from public sector accounting information. For example, like Nigeria that is using traditional budgeting system, we need to get what was the amount proposed last year, and then we add additional percentage to it to arrive at a new budget. If we don't have the figures of the one we did last year, how are we going to get the one for the new year? So you see that it helps in planning. For us to do the budgeting, we need to get some financial data which are derived from public sector accounting information. Then control. At the end of the period, we need to check what did we propose to do and what did we actually do and what are the differences, that is the variance. And then what are the corrective, if we have some adverse variance, what are the corrective measures we are going to take to make sure that those adverse variants do not occur subsequently. When we are doing that, we say we are doing controlling. So public sector accounting helps us to plan and as well control. So that's the first objective, assisting in planning and control. Then another objective is that it enhances the appraisal of the efficiency of the management. How do we know that the management is doing well? It's by looking at the records, looking at the financial account, looking at the accounting reports. Is when we look at the accounting reports, we say, you are doing well or you are not doing well as the management. For instance, the revenue for last year was 1 billion, and the revenue for this year is 2.5 billion. If we look at the reports, that financial report will now say the management is doing well. But if the previous revenue was 2.5 billion and the current revenue is 1.5 billion, you see that the management is not doing well. So it's through the accounting information that we will know that management is doing well, that we can evaluate the performance of the management, the efficiency of the management. So another objective of public sector accounting is that it provides the means by which actual performance may be compared with the set target. Just like I said earlier about the budget and the actual. It's because we have financial records. It's because we have accounting records that will be able to compare what was provided for and what was actually done, what was actually achieved. That is comparing the actual performance against the set targets. We propose to achieve this and we eventually achieve this. Just like I said also when I was talking about evaluating the performance of the management, because the management was asked to do this and this was what they actually did. How do we determine this? If there are no accounting information, there is no way we can compare the performance and the set target. So one of the objectives of public sector accounting is that it enables us to compare the actual performance and the set target. Another reason why we do public sector accounting is because it provides us basis for decision making. Before you make a decision, there is something you rely on to make your decision. There is a data on ground. They are what we call underlying assumptions. These underlying assumptions are being informed by some basis. You want to do revenue of 2.5 million next year. Why do you say you want to do 2.5? You must have looked at your data. This data now is financial information. You must look at it. Okay, we did 2 million last year, and by the rate of inflation is so percentage. Therefore, we are likely to do 2.5 this year. You now see that it's because of the financial data you have, it's because of the information, the accounting information you have, that makes you to decide that you are going to do this. Okay, in cost, we incurred so amount last year. Therefore, we are likely going to incur so amount in the subsequent year. What is the basis for that decision you are making? The basis is the financial records you have. So it is an objective of public sector accounting to provide the basis for decision making. Another objective of public sector accounting is that it helps us in evaluating the cost incurred against the benefit derivable. The main objective of public sector in itself is to maximize the public welfare. Public sector is not there to make profit. The public sector is designed to maximize the public welfare of the entire masses. Now, public sector has incurred expenditure, probably on providing basic amenities or in executing some projects that are going to be enjoyed by the public. At the end, how do we know whether that project that was executed, that the benefit derivable from that project is commensurate with the cost incurred for executing the project? It is when we looked at the report, that is the financial report, which will be provided by the public sector accounting, is when we look at the cost. We now said, the cost is commensurate, the cost is okay, the benefit derivable from the cost, it's okay, it's justifiable. But sometimes you may look at the cost. Is this road construction for so kilometers, that so amount was expended to construct? Or it is this road of poor quality that they were telling us that so amount was spent in constructing the road, that the benefit derivable is not commensurate with the cost incurred. The only way we can know this is through public sector accounting. Another objective of public sector accounting is that it provides us with evidence of stewardship by those who handle the machinery of the government. The public servants are there to serve the masses. So at the end, at periodic intervals, they need to give us the report of how they are serving the members of the public. This report forms an evidence of their stewardship. Stewards are servants. So the public servants are stewards of the members of the public. They are the servants of the people. Therefore, they need to render account of how they serve us. How would they render this account? They render it through publishing of the public sector report, accounting report. So through that, they render the evidence of their stewardship. Another reason why we do public sector accounting is to identify the sources of funding of various capital projects. Some of the capital projects are financed through various means. Some are financed through borrowed fund. Some are financed, few anyway, are financed through the IGR, that is internal generated revenue. Some are financed through grants. But the members of the public will not know until we see public sector accounting reports. It's when you see public sector accounting reports that you know the source of funding for the capital projects. All the government expenditure are classified into two: recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. Then those capital expenditure are the money we spent on capital projects, long-term projects. Now, if we don't have public sector accounting reports, we are not going to know how those projects are funded. Some of us may believe that most of the projects are funded through the internal generated revenue. But in actual sense, some of them are funded through borrowed loans. So it's when we see the public sector accounting reports that we'll be able to determine the source through which the capital project was funded. Finally, through public sector accounting, we'll be able to highlight the various sources of revenue, receivable, and expenditure incurred. Government generates incomes and government spends money. All this income the government generates is government revenue, and all the expenditure government incurs, from which sources do we get them, and which objects do we spend money on? Is when we look at the public sector accounting information, or what we call public sector accounting reports, that we know the various sources through which government gets this money and the objects on which they spend this money. They get money through oil sources and non-oil sources. The non-oil sources could be through taxation, through levies, through fine, through borrowing, and so many other sources. And we will not know until we see financial reports, until we see public sector accounting reports. So all these are the reasons why we do public sector accounting. We call them the objectives of public sector accounting. So having concluded on objectives of public sector accounting, let us now look at the various users of public sector accounting information. If you had listened to our part 1 of the introductory lecture, you would have known that what public sector accounting means is to collect financial information, record it, classify it, analyze it, communicate it, interpret it for informed decision making. And this decision making is made by the stakeholders. And who are these stakeholders? Stakeholders are the users of this accounting information. Those who will use this accounting information are what we call the stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder to any entity? A stakeholder to any entity is any organization, or let me say any entity that has interest in another entity is regarded as a stakeholder. Any individual or entity that has interest in another organization or an entity is regarded as a stakeholder. Now, those stakeholders have information needs from those organizations they have interest in, because there's a reason they have that interest. Therefore, they always look out for financial information from those entities they have interest in for their own informed decision making. So in public sector, who are these users of public sector accounting information? We classify them into two. We have internal users and we have the external users. Who are these internal users? The internal users are those who are in the executive arm of the government. In short, they are the preparers of this financial information. They are the ones who prepare. You should know that government has three arms. We have three arms of government. We have the executive, we have the judiciary, and we have the legislation. The executive are the ones who prepare this financial information. So everybody who are in the executive arm of the government are internal users. And who are these ones? We have the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the governors of the states, and the chairman of local government councils. These are the heads of executives at the various tiers of government, various levels of government. At the federal level, the head of the executive is the president. At state level is the governor. At local government level is the chairman of the local government. They are internal users. We have the federal ministers and state commissioners. At the federal level, the federal ministers make up the cabinet, the executive arm. We call them Federal Executive Council, the president and the members of his cabinet. Who are the members of this cabinet? The ministers and some other people like the vice president, the secretary to state government, the head of civil service, and so on. They all make up the executive arm at the federal level. At the state level is the governor and the state commissioners. They are all internal users. Top administrators of government departments, various government departments, parastatals, government agencies, their administrators are also internal users because all of them are under the executive arm of the government. Subordinates will subordinates who oil the wheels of administration. These are the civil servants, those who work in various departments, in various ministries, in various departments and agencies. All of them are internal users, those who work in the executive arm of the government. They are the ones who prepare this financial reports, this accounting information. We regard to them as the internal users. Even the accountant general whose office prepare these financial reports, the auditor generals, all of them are under internal. You are all internal users because they are under what? They are under the executive arm of the government. Let's quickly look at the external users of public sector accounting information. So these external users are some stakeholders other than those who are in the executive arm of government. Members of the public, all of us, we need the public sector accounting information. We need to know when our government is doing well financially and when not. We need to know whether they borrowed a lot of money. We need to know our budget information. We need to know a lot of financial reports from government. So we are stakeholders. So we need to have information of the public sector accounting, members of the public, National Assembly. The National Assembly at the federal level in Nigeria is practicing what we call bicameralism system of legislation. What it means is that we have two chambers of legislative arm of government at the federal level. The two arms are the Senate House and the Federal House of Representatives. Two of them make up what we call the National Assembly. They need this financial information. They need public sector accounting information. So they are users. Remember, these people are the people that approve the budgets. And so they are the ones that approve every expenditure that the federal government incurs. When we get there, we are going to see we are still at the introductory aspect of the course. We're going to see the processes involved in the approval of this public sector expenditure. Then government, apart from the one rendering the report, government, apart from the one rendering this report, they are also interested in the public sector accounting information. For instance, federal government prepares the report, state government is interested, because state government is not the one preparing now. In this case, they are interested in that report. Foreign government, for instance, Chinese government is interested in Nigerian financial report. I hope you know, British government is interested. Some other foreign governments, they are interested in Nigerian financial reports because they are stakeholders. They are not the one preparing, but they are interested. So government, apart from the ones rendering reports, foreign countries, I've said that foreign countries are also interested. They are stakeholders. Why are they interested? Because they are stakeholders, they have interest in Nigerian government. Financial institutions, some financial institutions, some financial foreign institutions like IMF, International Monetary Fund, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, also called World Bank, they are interested. African Development Bank are interested. Paris Club, London Club, they are all interested. They are foreign financial institutions. They need to know. They need to have this public sector accounting information. They want to know what government is doing financially, monetarily. They are interested. So they are external users. Researchers, people like us, those who do research, who find information, they are interested. They are stakeholders. Researchers need to know what the budget did last year, what budget is doing this year, what budget is likely to do. They need to know what are the levels of the borrowed money, what is the debt profile of government, and so on and so on. What is inflation doing? What is the rate of unemployment? What is price levels? What is the GDP? And so on and so forth. All those economic indices, we get them through what? Through public sector accounting information. If we want to look at the financial information, that we'll be able to know what the economy is doing. The researchers, they are interested. They are external users of public sector accounting information. Political parties are also interested. They need to know what government is doing. If eventually when they get the power, it's not that time that they will start to plan. And for planning, like we've just said earlier, public sector, one of the objectives of public sector is planning and control. So you need to get the information to enable you to plan. You can't start planning immediately you assume power. You need to start planning, have your blueprint, what you are going to do when you eventually get into power. So as a political party, you need to know, you need to have the financial information of the government. And finally, trade unions and civil liberty organizations, they also need to know what the government is doing financially, what are the public sector accounting information projecting. They need to have that information. So all these are the external users of public sector accounting, and I have also explained what their information needs are. Why do they actually need the public sector accounting information? So if you're watching this on YouTube, consider subscribing to the channel so that whenever we release new information, you'll be able to know, like, and share. So we are drawing the curtain on this introductory aspect of the course. Now, in the next part, we are going to look at the regulatory framework of public sector accounting. It's still under the introductory aspect of the course. So keep following for more information, so that eventually we'll see you at the top. Thank you, and God bless.